Hey everybody, this is Townsend. Thank you so much for tuning in. As a lot of you know, these conversations began as joined live streams that turned into podcasts to help reach more people and spread more hope. Thank you so much for your patience with the quality of sound as we figure out the best way to bring you these important chats, just in hopes of spreading more love and positivity. I hope you enjoy. One, how are you? You feeling good?
I'm doing well. I'm okay.
Very good. Have you ever done one of these before?
No, I have not.
Well, welcome. Okay, so I started doing these because I just think it's kind of fun to get on here. I've started doing once a month, having just different topics, hopping on here and discussing them with people. And I
Mhm.
decided you were somebody I for sure wanted to chit chat with and just kind of share, have other people give them the ability to ask you questions and have you offer tips and strategies. Because I know for
Okay.
me, you've been nothing but helpful for sure. So let me introduce you first, okay?
Okay.
All right, guys. So for y'all that don't know, this is Wendy Blackwood. She is a licensed professional counselor, a clinical supervisor, and she's a founder of Healing Path Counseling in Conway, Arkansas. So she's got a ton of accolades. I'm just going to run through a couple of them real quick. She's involved in the Arkansas Mental Health Counselors Association Board. She served as the president. She was nominated by peers and the governor to serve as the Arkansas Board of Examiners in counseling. So she's got a ton of stuff. I even skipped several things because we'll be here for like an hour if I read all of them. But yeah, so basically she's the chat. So in lack of more professional terms. Okay, so I also wanted to have you on here because I know for me, in 2016, a lot of people, I posted several videos about this, but I don't know how many people watched it. But I know in 2016, it was like the worst time ever for me. And so several things happened. I lost my best friend, among many other things. You can watch the video. I don't want to take up all your time, but it took me like a year to pick up the phone and call you for help, for counseling. What's up,
Mhm.
Kyle? And I just want people to realize it shouldn't be that hard of a phone call, you know? So it took
Mhm.
me forever, and I wish I would have done it sooner. It was almost like it's that stigma that comes along with, oh, I can fix myself. I don't need help.
Mhm.
And just understanding that sometimes it's okay to chat with somebody that knows better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to have you on and to introduce you to everybody.
Mhm.
I have chatted with Wendy, shared all my deepest, darkest secrets, and truly she's been a lifesaver for me. So I wanted to have her on and just kind of beat the stigma of mental health and just letting people know it's okay to see somebody. So getting into this, I kind of want you to take over and chat about whatever you want to chat about. I know a ton of people have already asked me questions to give to
Uh-huh.
you, but we'll start out with kind of 2020, right? That's like
Yeah.
the
Um,
dreaded 2020.
yeah. So 2020 is something that no one was prepared for. There's no handbook for it.
Yeah,
And, we as a nation and a city and a world are in a collective crisis. And so the problem is we're all in this crisis together, but we're all separate.
yeah,
And so each of us are experiencing it in our own way. And what the difficult thing about that is all of our resources that we've used that naturally get us through difficult things have been taken away. And so going out to restaurants, seeing friends, hugging family members, those things are not normal anymore. And so that's really hard for people to adjust to. We have a ton of adjustment, and every time we get adjusted to something or we think we have something new comes along, because it's not just COVID, it's also the racial unrest, it's also the political damage that's been done. It's it's all the things that are going on in life that have occurred to each individual person and family units.
yeah,
And so a lot of people lost, income, and and because their jobs had to shut down for COVID or whatever. So there's a lot of things that people are trying to adjust to at once, and it's like being in the ocean, and you have one or two waves, you can manage it, but every time you go to get up from one, another one hits you. And so it's really causing a lot of emotional fatigue.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome analogy. Just the waves keep hitting. So
Hmm.
I work in healthcare during the day, and I know I've told several people that are close to me, but you would think it'd be just rocking with hours. But actually, I've struggled with getting hours, and the couple of hours that
Hmm.
I have gotten, you have to wear double gowns, like plastic
Hmm.
gowns. We have to wear masks, face shield, goggles. So not only are you worried about the financial part, you're worried you can't breathe for hours on end. You're worried about
Hmm.
getting COVID. You're worried about spreading it. And then, of course, music's just come to an halting stop. So it kind of affected both ends of my careers,
Your
I guess.
life. Yeah.
So going off of that, you own a counseling center, a place people can come in, and you're still seeing people probably a lot through telehealth. But what do you find that
Yes.
people are struggling with the most with 2020?
Well, I think mostly there's been lots of studies going on, and so there's been a 53.5% increase in depression
Oh,
and a 48.1% increase in anxiety.
I believe it.
And so a lot of people, anxiety has been something that has been on the rise in the United States for the last decade or so. But then, of course, now we have all this other stuff going on, and it has just exploded. And so, if a person had anxiety issues, they got worse. If they never had them, they developed them. We are all in a state of anxiety pretty much, unless you live under a rock right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're all sedated right now, is what you mean by
Yeah.
medication.
Yeah. Pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Somebody, a patient of mine, they're really good at being the bearer of bad news because they're 90 and they're just like, I don't
No
care. I'm going to
filter.
freak you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them said, one of the things people are concerned about are everybody getting anxiety and then they'll be out of medication. Nobody can get them. And then I think in that moment I developed anxiety. And so, but yeah, I've heard all these statistics and it's just
Yeah.
unreal. And so, just like, again, for having you on here, one of the things, uh, it was to kind of touch on that again. The hardest decision I ever made was to go to you and to reach
Hmm.
out for help. And since then, I've been a huge advocate in reaching out for help and stop being stubborn. Like, even looking
Yeah.
back on myself, I'm kind of like, what the heck were you doing? Like, what's the
Yeah.
point of that? And so, just letting people realize, especially with the rise in all these numbers and statistics, it's okay to not be okay, right?
It is. And I think part of the thing is, for the most part, we have built-in coping strategies that help us through. But then we get overwhelmed, our system gets overwhelmed, and the things that have worked in the past no longer work, and we don't know what to do about it. And so a lot of times we simply shut down and stay quiet about it, which actually fuels anxiety and depression.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I feel like, oddly enough, most people would know, I feel like I'm really quiet naturally, and I don't want to
Mm,
burden anybody or anything like that, so I just kind of take it on myself, but I want to help everybody else. And so
yeah.
I feel that fueled for me, like, that's what made it really hard to ask for help myself, like
Mhm.
admitting that you
Yeah.
needed help.
Well, and I think also people delay or avoid getting help because they feel like, well, what I'm going through is not bad enough.
Yeah,
It's almost like they compare their suffering to other people, and we can't do comparative suffering. The truth is, what you're going through is the worst thing
yeah,
in that moment. And so, it's like right now, I think a lot of people are not really giving a lot of credence to how much this is affecting children. And
yeah,
it's really, not being able to go to school or play sports or have play dates or whatever. That is the worst thing they've ever experienced. And so it is a big deal.
yeah,
And I think even as adults, we tend to push aside the way we feel because we think, well, it's not that bad.
yeah. That's a really
Yeah.
good, way to put it. You don't even think about kids because you think how resilient they are, you know? But
Hmm.
yeah, I couldn't imagine not going to school. Or, Taylor, my best friend, is a kindergarten teacher, or was, but we talked about wearing masks and
Hmm.
how they're introduced to the world with mask,
Yeah.
and there's no smile and there's no hug, and just how detrimental that might be. So
Yeah.
it's pretty wild. It's a wild time right now.
It is. And, the thing is, we're also, I talked about depression and anxiety, but truly what we're all experiencing collectively is grief.
Yeah.
We are going through a lot of grief. We're grieving the normal that we used to have. We're grieving holidays that are no longer experienced the same way, and birthdays and Christmas. There's a lot of things happening that we are having to grieve, but there's really nowhere to put it, and people aren't labeling it like that. They just know they feel empty.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a real, I actually never thought about it that way, but that's a great way to put it. So Kyle's got a question real quick before it disappears. What are
Sure.
some practical tips you provide for those struggling with mental health or substance use issues? So that's kind of turning it a little bit from 2020. We'll come back to that. Do
Hmm.
you want to answer the question or do it at the end?
Well, one, substance use is a whole different category, because if it's addiction, then you can't really work completely on the mental health wellness aspect of it until the addiction has been addressed. Because unless they are sober, they cannot take in those coping strategies that we would normally teach.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it. Um, I think a lot of people do use substances to manage stress. And we know that there's been a heightened, like the liquor stores are booming right now,
Yeah. Right.
because absolutely people are using it to cope. Some of the most basic strategies, though, is to, do the things that you can do. Go for a walk, get sunshine, drink water, have Zoom meetings with friends. Don't isolate. Those are some of the basic things, and we'll get into some more specific things in a bit.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So Kyle, the guy that asked that question, thanks so much for
Hmm.
asking that. I'm actually going to have him. He's going to do one of these interviews a few months from now. I
Hmm.
think next month actually it'll be him, but a super great guy. He's been doing some amazing things. So y'all can catch him next month as well. All right, Wendy, let's go back to 2020. Okay, so you said that
Yeah.
you might have tips or strategies for people. Like, give us a few, if you had to summarize it. I know that could be like days upon days of talking to you and counseling, but if you have to summarize a
Yeah.
few tips for coping with all of this crap, what would
Yes. Well, the number one thing I would say is limit your exposure to media.
you?
Don't
Yeah,
don't stay on watching the news all day or watching social media all day long. Limiting that exposure and being able to identify what you're feeling. Are you feeling frustrated? Are you feeling sad? Are you missing someone? Are you angry that you're missing out? Are you depressed? Learning to label those feelings is really important, because then we can address them. Oftentimes, we don't know what to say about how we're feeling. We don't pay attention to it. And with that being said, paying attention to your body knows. Your body absolutely knows what's going on with you. And if you're feeling tension in your chest or your stomach or headaches or whatever, that's your body telling you you need something, not to ignore it. Allowing yourself rest is a huge thing. A lot of people, especially when COVID first hit, people were on this mission to clean out every closet, and they were going to do all these millions of projects. But then you burn out. And
yeah,
so, there's just not a way to do that. So allowing yourself rest and practicing self-care, and that looks different for each person. And a lot of people equate self-care with being lazy or non-productive. And actually, a really interesting maladaptive coping strategy that a lot of people have, and I suffer from it, is being overproductive,
yeah,
just taking on too much
yeah.
and learning to step back. That's a big deal. Exercise, going for a walk, stretching, all these things are important to use right now.
Yeah, I gotta, when you said being productive is self-care, I gotta, to
Yeah,
me, I tend to
yeah.
do that. Like you have a day off and you think, oh, I'm just gonna be productive, and you
I,
forget self-care.
mhm.
Yeah,
And I think most people are pretty resilient. And but I think also allowing people to assist you. I
Yeah.
think that's a big deal, and we don't do a good job of that in our society. We want to do it all,
Yeah.
and rarely is life a one-man show.
I feel like, talking about the media, I feel like 2020 millennials and like my generation and below, independence and like selfies and everything about you and the world revolves around you and you do it by yourself and you don't need
Hmm.
anybody. I feel like that's what's popular and that's what's blown up. And so
Yep.
I just like even watching my nieces who are 12 and below, I just think, God, what a lonely world because
Yeah.
they see is their reflection in a cell phone. And I
Yeah.
just can't help but think, man, like you weren't born to live by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we are hardwired to connect with other humans.
Yeah.
And especially with children, when you think about it, we are developmentally wired for that. And if we don't have physical touch, we don't have social interaction, nurturing, loving feedback from people in our lives, we don't develop. Like our brains will literally not develop. So it's like back, like in the 80s when the children in the Ukraine were in a lot of orphanages, and they would tell the staff, don't touch them, don't hug them, they'll get needy, and they didn't develop, and they all became developmentally delayed.
Wow. That's
And
really,
so we need that. And, we need to normalize that we're all suffering, and that it's legitimate and authentic, and it applies to this situation.
yeah, man, I think that's fantastic. Very good. Seeking out help is okay. It's okay to not be okay. And I feel like it's almost my calling, along with counselors and therapists. I've become friends with several of them. It's almost my calling to help you guys spread that umbrella of, hey, it's okay. Like, there's
Hmm.
such a stigmatism and just a bad rap, y'all get such a bad rap, but it's okay. And everybody could benefit from some counseling.
Yeah. Well, and the truth is, most of the time, people do pretty well on their own, but there's times when things get to a point where you just need some assistance,
Sure.
you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
And if it could be as common as when your car is making a strange sound or a vibration, you take it in to get it looked at, it's not going to be there forever.
Yeah,
And most of the time, our job as counselors is to work our way out of a job.
yeah,
Get people to a point where they can handle it on their own, and then you pass them off.
yeah,
And if they need something, they come back, and if they don't, that's great.
yeah. That's a really good way to put it. That's awesome. I need to get like a booklet and be like, okay, it's time to go in for my old checkup, old
Yep.
refill, Wendy. Yeah, that's awesome. Very good. So with counseling and with your job, have you noticed an increase with like clientele? Have you noticed what you're
Um,
in?
yes, I mean, I've been very consistently busy, and I tend to see a lot of first responders and medical personnel, but and also I've seen a huge increase in teachers,
Yeah,
and professors, and so they are overwhelmed with all of the things being put on them as well. And I spoke with an ER nurse yesterday, and she's like, they are just overwhelmed, and they are covered up from head to toe in all kinds of gear, their PPEs, and they are doing the best they can, but they're overwhelmed, and there's not enough of them. And they are flying people out, to different cities because there's no hospitals. And so it's an overwhelming thing for all of them, and they're doing the best they can, but they have limited resources as well.
yeah, absolutely. It,
Mhm.
yeah, being in the healthcare setting, I don't know, you almost kind of have to separate it a little bit because it's frightening. That just the reality of it all, I suppose, is the best way to put it. But just
Uh-huh.
being in the healthcare setting, like I said earlier, I work in healthcare during the day, and hours have been, I mean, they've kind of disappeared really because hospitals have most of the patients, and I work in the nursing home, so they're all gone. But
Yeah.
with getting hours, you're doubled up in gowns, you're covered from head to toe, sometimes two, three, four layers. You can't breathe. So,
Hmm.
and then several of us have been having to travel to different cities or they've flown them out at different states. They've talked about not having enough PPE, just all of
Hmm.
those stresses. And man, to everybody in the healthcare or even teachers. You know, you think healthcare, man, they got it bad. But you think
Yeah.
about everyone else, everybody's kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
So it's just a hard time right now for sure. And I feel like people are what we need.
Yeah.
Talking it out, going to counseling, like you said, Zoom calls with friends, things
Yeah.
like
We really need connection. We
that.
have to have connection, and that could be connecting, having a wine and wine with your friends,
Yeah.
once a week.
Yeah.
It could be, setting up the camera so that you're having Christmas dinner together, even though you're in different states. You have to change your expectations right now. Right now, we're living in a lot of ambiguity, which is what people are feeling. And when 2020 first got going, there was all the, COVID hit, and then we had so much racial unrest. And, there's so much ambiguity about what can we do. It all feels far away and helpless.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And then all the political stuff, like you mentioned earlier, I know
Yeah.
has been a huge stressor for many, many people.
Yeah. And it still is in some ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it will.
Yeah.
And I feel like
Hmm.
even when it comes to terms and we figure out who actually is in charge, all
Yeah.
the changes and the COVID continuing, and I feel like the stress will continue. So figuring out how to cope with it now is
Yeah.
essential. So,
Yeah, I think so. And I think that part of the stressors that people are feeling is they would get geared up for things to go back to normal.
yeah,
And so there was all the, oh, well, as soon as summer gets here, it's going to be okay again. And then it was, well, by the time school gets back in session. And then it was, well, as soon as the election happens.
yeah,
And so we get geared up for this normalcy and it doesn't happen. And it's a lot of letdown.
yeah,
And that kind of chips away at our resiliency.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything you're saying, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I did that. Did that. Yeah. So speaking of the holidays coming up, I know
Yeah.
Thanksgiving was super weird for a lot of people, including my
Yes.
family. We kind of tried to distance from each other. A few of us got together. It definitely wasn't the whole family.
Hmm.
We're a very huggy family, and so we're not hugging on each other. And like I said, just that in itself is just so strange. It's a weird feeling. I kind of
Yeah.
go back and forth on what if it's your last Thanksgiving? Should you have hugged each other? And then you think, well,
Mm.
what if I'm the reason I spread germs because I hugged them? So even that's
Yeah.
better. But
Yeah.
Christmas is coming up. Thanksgiving just
Mm.
ended.
Yeah.
Have any advice as far as the holidays coming up? Because I know, is
Yeah.
it like winter and Christmas? Like you've got the seasonal depression,
Yeah.
which I know I hate the time change. So
Yes.
it's dark at 4 o'clock. So it's dark, it's cold, you've got the holidays. Now we're actually all alone on the holidays, or more so than usual.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that will affect a lot of people this year?
I think it absolutely is. I've had so many people come in the last week and a half saying that they're depressed because of the way Thanksgiving was and
Oh,
how sad it was and how they thought they were prepared, but they were not. And so I think, as far as like how to cope with some holiday season resiliency during COVID is, plan it out in advance. Go ahead and plan out how you're going to do your connections. Get them down pat. If you're going to do a Zoom meeting, if you're going to do some distance dinners where you're outside, what are you going to do? Go ahead and plan it out so that your brain knows to prepare for it. Get some routines and rituals. You may have to have some new rituals. There's a lot of things that you may need that has to be modified. And so, if you always decorated the tree together, but you can't be together, then decorate the trees in your own homes at the same time. Have some talks, have some discussions about it. Again, back to getting some self-care in. If you don't sleep and you don't exercise and you don't eat, you're going to fall down. Your emotions are going to really they're just going to deteriorate. Um, and find small ways to minimize the stress. Watching TV, watching movies that make you feel good, eating childhood foods that made you feel good, connecting with times and memories is really important because your brain has all that in store. Neuroscience tells us that your brain is malleable and it will reach in and get it and it will assist you if you practice it. checking on your neighbors, doing something kind for someone else, giving to others in need. That's a big deal because that's part of our Christmas rituals sometimes. And to realize that sometimes we need to do something for someone. And then changing your expectations. It's simply not going to be the same. And you need to change your expectations, and so you're not so disappointed. So you can say this worked out well for what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are awesome. Very good.
Yeah.
So Casey Joe asked, she said, how do you handle a friend or family member that is going through treatment for a life-threatening illness? Dad's going through chemo and I want to keep him safe, but feel the need to spend time with him as well. So that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
My family's all pretty healthy, but I still am concerned about, I want to get, because I struggle myself with, this might be the last time you see them. You need to love on them, but then I also struggle with, I might be the reason they get sick, and this is so I can't imagine someone actually being ill. So what would you say about that?
Well, I think it really depends on what the healthcare professionals are allowing. If you're allowed to be 6 feet away from them and sit in the room with them, if you're allowed to suit up and have gloves and smocks and the whole PPE thing and hold their hand, I mean, I think you've got to really lean into what they're going to allow you to do. Yeah. And if not, have as much contact as you can. Can you do FaceTime? Can you do some Zoom time? Will the other family members or medical professionals assist in that? Send cards, send letters, do kind things for them, take care of their dog or, take care of their house for them, things that make you feel like you're contributing. And it's hard because we are so limited.
We actually just had this conversation about grandparents.
Yeah.
There's just such a struggle, I guess, between you want to love on them, but you're scared to love on them, and the guilt of either choice that you make.
I think we're all really experiencing a lot of cognitive dissonance because our behavior and our beliefs aren't matching. We believe we should hug and love on our family, but yet we have to hold back. And then we second guess that, should I have held back? Yeah. And it's a lot of internal struggle that we're experiencing.
Yeah, that's a great way to word it. I know for me, that's a big thing. Like I said earlier, my family's super huggy and touchy, and not be able to do that with family and friends and because then I start to think, well, am I in the wrong for not doing that? Am I in the right for doing, So all different kinds of, like you said, grief and confusion and guilt, all these feelings.
And the truth is there's not a right answer.
Yeah.
There may be some wrong answers. There's some people that are definitely putting themselves at risk. Yeah. But there's not a right answer. We have to do what we need to do in the moment. And man, that's hard.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. You were supposed to come on here and give me right answers. You're supposed to have all these and fix things.
I didn't get the memo on that.
You were supposed to heal COVID over this. So
okay.
I need my, I'm kidding.
Well, tomorrow morning, it'll be all fixed. It'll be great.
Right, exactly. We'll all feel like gold tomorrow. That'll be awesome. Yeah. So we've kind of talked about some tips and tricks. Did you have anything else you wanted to touch on?
Well, I really think that there's a lot of things that we can do because we all experience a lot of anxiety and depression. But right now, anxiety seems to be really heightened as a collective country. We're all going through it. And so I think learning how to be grounded in the here and now is really, really important. Anxiety is, it's kind of, I hate to oversimplify it, but it's really worrying about what if something might happen or what something did happen, what was or what if. And being grounded in the present, in the here and now, is really the most powerful thing you can do for yourself. And so sometimes that means, just asking yourself, what do I know to be true right here in this moment? I know I'm sitting in this chair. I know my feet are on the floor. I know that I'm healthy to all my knowledge. I know that I'm, visiting with you and all the people that are there. I know these things to be true, and I know that I'm safe right this moment. And so we get to what ifing and we worry about things that may never happen. Mark Twain had a quote. He said, so, I'm going to misquote it, but it was something like, I'm an old man that's been through a lot of troubling events, most that never happened.
Yeah. Oh my God. I like that.
And and so the thing is, we worry ourselves about what might happen, and we really limit our experience of being in the here and now.
Absolutely.
We cheat ourselves out of the beauty of it.
Yeah. I actually had a really good chat with a good friend the other day talking about illnesses and how once you've experienced something so traumatic, your mind kind of plays games on you. So you say that you're healed, and the doctors are like, yeah, you're good, you're golden. But from that day on, it's supposed to be easier and good, and you live in the present. But your mind is, well, what if I'm still sick? Well, what if something's still going
What
on?
if they miss something?
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, just kind of over analyzing and playing tricks on yourself. So, I know for me, that was something that I kind of struggle with. I don't know. Are you into Enneagrams?
Yes, I've done the Enneagram. Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm an
Yeah.
Enneagram 6, which I think
Oh.
fits me superbly. So, basically, you're overprepared, you worry about everyone else. And I saw one today. It was a meme on an Enneagram thing, and it says, check in on your Enneagram 6s. God, that doesn't fit me. I don't know what. Like, we love and we love hard. Our biggest adjectives are loyal and loving and worrying. And so we worry about ourselves, but we also worry about everybody else and everything else.
Yeah.
So something that I struggle with, but you and I chatted about some strategies to help with anxiety. And I can't remember it exactly. Try to help me. It was like, name 5 things you smell, see 4 things you smell. What was that?
So it's the 5 senses.
Yeah.
What do you see? What do you hear? What do you taste? What do you smell? What do you feel?
Yeah.
But and there's lots of other things you can, like, for instance, just look around your room right now and tell me 5 things that are red.
Yeah.
That's a grounding thing. Naming 5 things that start with the letter C. That really does. What happens is when we're anxious or we're feeling overwhelmed with emotion, the right side of our brain, that's the emotion center of the brain. The left side of the brain, that's where we problem solve, in the frontal lobe. And so what happens is when we get too much emotion going on and we get worried, excessively worried, and I think the whole nation is in this right now, the right side of our brain is bullying. It's not letting the problem solving happen. And so we get really fired up, and that all that natural cognitive resilience we have gets thrown out the window. And so sometimes we really have to practice being in the moment and grounding yourself and being very mindful, doing some really good breathing, getting enough oxygen to your brain so your brain can allow that other side of your thinking to get into the game.
Yeah.
So that it can assist us.
Yeah. In that moment, I know I struggle with that sometimes. Just what if, but what if, but what?
Yeah.
My brain's
Yeah.
like, oh God, freak out, So
Yeah.
for me, those strategies, is something that simple was super helpful for me. So even now, several years later, I'll revert back to that and just be like, okay, well, what am I feeling? What am I smelling? What am I hearing? Things like that. So there's several comments. One, you've gotten several thank yous. Delene, she's from Georgia. She says, thank you so much, Wendy. My mom says, so thankful for Wendy and the therapist out there who are there when life is hard and you just need someone to help get you through it. Such a blessing to know you're there. And I back that up as well, for sure. Gretchen, also from Georgia, says, I am a big advocate of therapy. What is Wendy's recommendation on sharing the benefits of therapy with loved ones in a way that might make someone consider that for themselves?
I think that's a really great question, because we don't want to overstep our boundaries and be preachy, but also we want to share. And so I think it's letting someone know how it has benefited you, and that the benefits can be, that it's not what they think it is. I think a lot of people think it's what they see on television, and it's really not. It's a
Like
lot of
word, like
yes,
locked up in a white,
jacket,
white coat, like tied up. Yeah, absolutely.
or they think it's like, laying on the couch with Freud sitting next to you with his pad and pen.
I honestly, not to interrupt you, when I came in, you didn't have a piece of paper, you didn't have a notepad. We just hung out, and in my head, the whole time I thought, okay, this is nothing like what you see on TV. Because I
Yeah.
imagine laying down, you having a notepad, and just being like, so how does that make you feel?
Yeah. And go,
How does
uh-huh.
that make you
Mm-hmm.
feel? How does that make you feel? And be, but that's not it at all. And that's kind of why I have you here today. So not to interrupt you,
Mm-hmm.
but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, and I also think it's really important to find someone that fits you.
Yeah.
You don't buy the first car you test drive. And so you have to try on a lot of things, go by people's recommendations, but just because that person was great for them doesn't mean that they're great for you. You have to have a connection. In counseling, we talk about how the therapeutic relationship is the most important part of the therapy. If you don't connect with someone and you don't build that relationship, you're not going to do the same level of work that you would. And so when you lean into someone and say, you know what, I have someone that I see and they're great, and here's how it helped me. And maybe they would know someone that could help you, or you could talk to them. And sometimes we have family members that are very resistant. That's okay. They're not ready yet. But if you share and you can show that it's a normal experience and it's a beneficial experience, sometimes eventually they kind of lean into it. I see a lot of first responders, and these are some pretty tough cookies. But once they get in there and they realize, wait a minute, this is okay, and they feel better, then you have them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, um, I've had several friends go to counseling. They
Mhm.
don't really have a good rapport with their therapist, and their therapist refers them to someone else. But what would you do in that situation if you went to see someone? So, like for me, if I went to
Mhm.
see someone, I didn't really feel like we're connecting, but they
Mhm.
did an offer to refer me to someone else. How do you handle that without it being awkward or just not showing back up? Or
Well, I think it's good to say, you know what, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate what we've done together. I feel like I just need a different approach. And so I'm going to seek, some other stuff. If you know someone, that would be great. But if not, I really appreciate your time, and I wanted to tell you in person that this is not really a great fit for me anymore.
yeah, I feel like through therapy, I don't know. I can't remember if it was you that told me or somebody else, but it was something about being your genuine self.
Hmm.
People will come. So
Yeah.
like opening up and actually
Hmm.
being genuine, your people will show up and your people
Yep.
will be there. And so I feel like since I saw you and finally figured out kind of how to navigate myself, and then became such an advocate for guys, it's okay. Like you should just letting them know that it's okay, and you shouldn't be
Yeah.
as scared as I was to jump in the water. Like the water's great, jump in. uh, and since then I can honestly say I have met the best people that I have like ever met. And it
Hmm.
honestly has come through you and just like the connections that we've had and the people that believe in counseling and the people that believe in me and the support. Like it's unreal, like how it just kind of all came together. And so not only did seeing you help, but what happened afterwards when you're a little bit more healed and genuine and put off
Hmm.
this, I don't know, it's almost like your aura changes maybe. I don't know,
Hmm.
but what's come out of it's been amazing.
Well, and I think you're giving me way too much credit, because I simply held space with you as you worked your way through it. Um, I'm kind of like the GPS, but you were definitely driving. And so,
If you know me, I suck at directions, so I thank the Lord for GPS because I would be very lost.
but when you do embrace your authentic self, and you get comfortable with that, and you say, look, I'm okay with being me in every way, the people that you need are going to gravitate. It's going to be like a gravitational pull. They come into your life because there's open space for it. You're not closed off.
Yeah,
And when you're not closed off from all the scary stuff, then you really open up for all the great stuff.
yeah,
Because we can't just shut off one emotion. We can't just shut off the bad. We shut off all of it, which really limits our ability to be loved and connected and appreciated.
yeah. Man, that's so awesome to hear. I kind of touched on this. So I started a group with this. I have started a project called "You're Not Alone." So, like with these little interviews, I want people to know
Yes.
you are not alone. You're not alone. It doesn't matter what you're going through. Your parents could have passed away. Your friend could have passed. You could have cancer. You could just have depression, whatever. So basically, whatever you have, whatever you're struggling with, you're not alone. And so I've started a Facebook group so that people can come together, have a little community there, chit chat. I've done
Hmm.
videos, things like that, just kind of to let people know. And again, through all of this, I have met the coolest people. So several of them have commented on here. Jess says, "Thank you both for destigmatizing the therapy process." She's one
Hmm.
that I met through you that has been incredibly supportive of me.
Yeah.
Have a little face says, "I have the best boss." I guess that's because I definitely don't have anybody working for me. I can barely keep myself afloat, much less workers. Um, Kristen says she loved your GPS analogy. And my mom says truth to all of that.
Mm.
But yeah, there has just been, so I came to you, uh, I believe it was 2017, maybe the end of 2016, but just in the best way I can describe it was I tried to fix everything myself. I pushed people away because I didn't want to be a burden on them. So that was my Enneagram 6 coming out. I don't want
Hmm.
to burden anyone else. No one else feels this way. I'll just fix it myself. It'll be fine. Put on a smile, be funny, and don't let anybody know that anything's wrong. And so
Yeah.
eventually that just kind of came boiling out of all my crevices, you know. And you told me when I came to see you that trauma is kind of like a string. And so you have
Hmm.
a little bit of trauma and it gets one knot, you know.
Hmm.
And then you go down and you get another knot for some.
Yes.
And everything that happened to me just kind of made this messy bird's nest.
Yep.
And I'll never forget that because you told me, and it made me feel so much better. You said you never would have fixed it alone.
Yeah.
And that has stuck with me since then because I've just found it to be so true. I never would have fixed that by myself. Like, I can't even process all the things I went through. And I won't go into detail because that's not the point of this, but just realizing we're not meant to fix things without
Yeah.
help or like even
Yeah.
isolate.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is we really often need someone to reach in and help.
Yeah.
And, and not do it for you, but take the other end of the string and help you untangle it.
Yeah.
And that's really what the therapeutic process is about. And not being able to do it by yourself is not a weakness or a failure in any way, shape, or form. It's just you didn't have the tools. And
Yeah.
so it's like trying to build a house without all the tools that are needed. You're only going to get so far on your own. But if somebody comes in and they bring in, the appropriate saws and the nail guns and all the things that make it usable and all the lumber, then you build some great stuff together.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that for sure. It so we got about 10 minutes left. You want to hop into these questions people gave us?
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I asked people ahead of time if they had any questions to shoot them to me. I would have you answer them. I got a handful of them. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Cool. Okay. So the first one says, um, someone wanted to know what inspires you daily. And I'm very curious about this as well because I've told you and Jess, who's also a counselor,
Hmm.
I told you this like weekly. I do not understand how you do what you do. I'm so
Yeah.
thankful, but like, how do you can come to this afterwards, but how do you deal with all of this stress and worry and then go home and have your own stress and worry? Just unreal. So, what inspires you daily? What keeps you going?
Well, what keeps me going um, professionally is, I get the blessing and the honor to be in the space with people as they go through their worst things and then come out on the other side. And so I get to be in the darkest of tunnels and then ride with them all the way through till they hit the sunshine and see them grow and see them heal and see them, them develop that natural resilience that they had. And it change when I see the change in them from the day they come in till they discharge, it's amazing. And that's what makes me come to work every single day. I love seeing that someone can be in that much pain or discomfort and then be happy
Yeah.
and feel like themselves and find their true self. That's what keeps me at work every day.
Since you saw me first, I lost like 15 inches of hair.
Yes.
That's something I lost, along with many other things. Okay. Someone also wanted to know what made you want to be a counselor. So, what was your What was your aha moment, I guess?
Wow. Let me think. So I kind of always was interested in the helping field. Um, I guess really most people probably thought I was going to be a coach because I was an athlete. And so, but thanks. Whoa, I about dropped it.
Are you throwing that out the window? Or are you,
Can you hear me?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm done with
I'm
it.
done. Stop asking me questions.
I had a really difficult childhood. And so I tell people I had two childhoods. I had a Leave It to Beaver childhood, like the Waltons with my grandparents who raised me.
Mhm.
And then I had complete and utter chaos when I lived with my biological parent. And so there was no assistance. There was no one that reached out. There was no one that helped. And I definitely could have used a listening ear at that time. And so I think that's what kind of inspired me. And then when I went to college, I just found my place.
Well, congrats on ending up being normal, kind of. Not bad. Or
That's
pretending
really debatable.
really well. Way to
Yeah.
pretend really well.
Yeah.
No, it's, man, what a, I can't imagine. I'm sure you have a thankless job many, many days. And I have emailed you at least 30 times to tell you thank you. But truly, every day I think I wake up and just thank. I don't even know how I came across your name, but I'm thankful for that
Yeah.
happening. And like you said, oh, don't take credit for it, but you do. I mean, you are what helped me through. And had I not come across you and had I not made that phone call, who the heck knows where I'd be? If I didn't have my GPS, I'd probably be off in a pond somewhere, like way lost in the woods, kind of like I was when I saw you then. So,
Mm.
thank you for that for sure. And so, for all the people that don't thank you, I'll thank you for them.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know. So for me, another thing, I know on New Year's, I always like to shoot you an email. I don't even know if you've noticed, but there's something about New Year's Eve that is almost overwhelmingly emotional for me
Hmm.
to think about how good the next year could be.
Yeah.
And I think you told me to start the new year fresh, like get rid of those bad emotions. This is a new year. It's time to start fresh. So there's something about every New Year's Eve that I have this overwhelming thought of you and how much you helped me through everything. So I usually send you an email. It's
Hmm.
super long and like, I'm sure like super emotional and such, but just thanking you because of the strategies you've given me and the help you've given me and basically just letting me vent a little bit and hearing me out, I can look at the new year with a totally new lens as what I did in that dark place. And
Mm.
so to see like 2022 compared to 2016,
Yeah.
the different lenses I see them through because of you is just like overwhelmingly amazing to me.
Mm. Well, and I appreciate the emails because it helps me start my new year,
Yeah.
reminding me why I do what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. All right. Somebody says, do you have any advice on stress eating or
Hmm.
anxiety eating? So when you get worked up and you start eating a bunch of crap, do you have any
Hmm.
advice for that?
Well, I think it's doing something different, and you got to do that in small increments. And so, identifying when is it that you stress eat, what are the triggers, what are the things that kind of get you in that direction, and identifying what makes you that stressed. But then also putting something in place that if you're going to be a stress eater, put some healthy options there. Have fruit, have vegetables. Most of the time, there's a certain thing. When I stress eat, I need crunchy. I
Yeah.
am a crunchy person, and so I know that if I have a lot of little baby carrots, then I can't possibly eat enough of them to hurt me. So,
Yeah.
but putting something else in place, but also learning. Okay, if I know that this stresses me out, what can I do to address it before it gets to that level? And establishing a new habit. You can almost do the opposites. You can't stress eat and jog at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe take a hot shower or a bath or call a friend, do something else. And your brain is amazingly pliable, and it will form a new pathway if you do something enough and you give it an opportunity to do something besides eat, because that eating, it's releasing endorphins, and it's making you feel better temporarily. and then guilt sets in, and then regret sets in. And so you got to find something else that also brings you that same serotonin release.
Yeah, this person's gonna go shower like 17 times a day.
Yeah, we'll have a new issue to deal with next
Don't
time.
eat. Yeah, the next time I see you, the question will be, how do you not shower so many times? Okay, the next one is, do you believe in meditation? And what would you suggest as far as helpful meditation goes?
Okay. I do believe in meditation. There are some amazing apps. There's a Calm app. You could probably go to any YouTube and come up with a dozen different meditations. I really like to use very visual meditations that is paired with muscle relaxation. And so finding something that speaks to you, whether it's a guided meditation on your phone or whether it's something that you just do yourself. The key to it is to be consistent with it and to practice it, because you want to teach your brain to calm down and shift down in a gear so that you can relax.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome. What do you think about yoga? You think that's a good one?
I think there's a lot of people that do a lot of therapeutic yoga,
Yeah.
and stretching and just being in control of your body is just really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's awesome.
And also the breathing in yoga, doing a lot of yoga breathing is really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, something that's kind of meditative, and we've talked about this, like sitting in a super calm position and going through the strategies you gave us about 30 minutes ago. What do you feel? What do you smell? What do you hear? All those different things. That kind of grounds me. And it's almost meditation, I feel like.
It is meditative, yes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Jessica said, yes, getting to the sunshine keeps me going as well. My mom said she gave me your name and she's taking that credit. So she's taking credit for all of this. So thanks, Mom. I appreciate that. She's like, you're in a dark place. Here you go. No, oh, that's not at all how it happened. Okay, for me, I have a question for you, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we talked about self-care and how your workload has just been like booming. So many people are going through all of this. Somebody said meditation and yoga helped me with built up anger when I was younger. Oh yeah, I can see that for sure. So for you, what does Wendy do for self-care? What do you like to do to kind of get your mind out of all this stuff?
Well, I'm a nature person. I love to be in nature. And so I love to hike. I love to kayak. I like to just sit on the deck and look at the lake. I like to be around trees. Trees are very, very healing to me. I grew up on a big farm, so I like to be outside. I'm a very wild child.
I love it.
I like to cook. And so I enjoy making up recipes and cooking and trying out new things. And I love to feed people. And that's really hard right now because I can't be around
I was
people.
gonna say, what are we doing on virtual then? You should have cooked me dinner and we could have had this over dinner.
This is a thing we could do.
COVID.
Yeah.
All right, so we're making a date. Once a month we're having this, but I'm going to be there and you're going to feed me and
listen,
there.
You tell me what you like to eat. It'll happen.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. What I'm going to do is once a month I'm going to have these. They've gotten so much awesome feedback that I'm going to start doing this. So next month I'm actually going to have Kyle Brewer, who hopped on here earlier. We're going to be talking about addiction with drugs and substance abuse and kind of how he turned his life around and everything. You were getting a ton of hearts. Do you see this one?
I see some hearts, yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you for tuning in and for getting this kind of going. So you're only my second interview, but it's gone stellar. It's been awesome. Well,
good. Well, I appreciate it. And, there's so many amazing topics that can be, shared. And so, when you have a cool platform like you do that you can get out there and you can just share with people.
Yeah. All right. So where can people find you? So if they thought, you know what, counseling sounds awesome. What do they need to do? How can they find you, or how can they find resources to get that?
Well, they can go to resources. There's one, you can go to the Counseling Board website, the Arkansas Board of Examiners in Counseling and Marriage and Family Therapists. They have a whole list of all the therapists of the state.
Very good.
All of them. So if you're in Northwest Arkansas or Northeast Arkansas, you can find somebody in your area. With telemed right now, we can see you from anywhere. So I see people from all over the place. Awesome. as far as me, they can go to my website, healingpathcounseling.com, or they can call my office and speak to Faith, and she will get them scheduled at 501-327-7224.
Good, awesome. Guys, if you're thinking about it, just make the call. I'm telling you right now, pretty much everybody I've gotten to know since I made the call has been amazingly genuine and supportive, and we have all had such a positive outcome just because of chit-chatting, just letting it out. You don't have to carry the burden. It's A-okay to need help.
And if you call and someone's not a good fit, ask them for a referral. Most of us, we want you to have the best person you can have.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's awesome. That was very helpful. I hadn't even thought about that before. Thankfully, we worked out pretty well together.
Yeah.
You're okay.
I'm all right.
Well, very good. All right, we're going to log off here. Thank you so much for everybody that tuned in. This will be available on Facebook or Instagram, but it won't be live. So if you have any questions, shoot me a message. Give Wendy a call at Healing Path Counseling. Wendy, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
It worked out.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. If you're looking to buy or sell, I have the perfect realty company for you. Clark & Co. Realty is located in the Benton, Bryant, Arkansas area, and they understand that buying or selling a home is more than just a transaction. It's a life-changing experience. That's why their team of highly seasoned real estate professionals is dedicated to providing exceptional, personalized services for all their clients. They truly take great pride in the relationships they build, and they always work relentlessly on the client's behalf to help them achieve their perfect real estate goals. They always have the client in mind, and I can speak firsthand when I say how reliable, trustworthy, and quick they were. When I was looking to buy my first home, they were there with me every step of the way, answering every question I could think of. They showed me a great amount of knowledge and patience through the process. It's no wonder they've won so many awards for their outstanding services and their excellent relationships with clients. So if you're looking to buy or sell, there is no better option than Clark & Co. Realty. If you enjoyed this conversation and are interested in becoming a sponsor, feel free to shoot me an email at townsendtmusic@hotmail.com or shoot me a message on any social media platform at Townsendtmusic for more information. I would love for you to become a member to help spread awareness that you're not alone.